Here's a song that was written for us by Hugh Masekela. He calls it Soweto Blues.
In January 1954, the Bantu Education Act came into effect, making it compulsory for children to attend government schools and learn specific subjects in English and Afrikaans. The Bantu education system featured separate schools and universities, poor facilities, overcrowded classrooms, and inadequately trained teachers, resulting in a lack of quality education for black children. The Bantu policy was designed to train Africans for their role in the new apartheid society, one of a worker, labourer, and servant. In January 1976, the government mandated that all school subjects must be taught in Afrikaans. The government recognised only English and Afrikaans as official languages, and all indigenous languages were banned. This decision caused an uproar amongst parents, teachers, and students. Tensions in schools grew from February 1976, when 2 teachers at Midland Tswana School were dismissed for refusing to teach in Afrikaans. Efforts to make representations to the education authorities were rebuffed, and in mid-May about a dozen schools went on strike, with several students refusing to write mid-year exams. 15-year-old Antoinette Sitoli, older sister of Hector Peterson, and an estimated 20,000 other students decided, in secret, to hold a protest. They drafted slogans, wrote signboards, and practiced revolutionary songs. The protest was planned by the Soweto Students' Representative and was supported by the wider Black Consciousness movement. The night before the protest, the students got ready, not knowing what would come on June 16th.
What is the relevance of the events of June 16th today? The relevance of the events of June 16th today are important because it reminds us of our past and how high school students brought attention to apartheid and its laws of segregation. It shows that the youth are capable of making a change. June 16th is relevant today because there is the same need for quality and accessible education in one's own language now as there was back then. It shows that young people don't have to accept oppression and racism. The events are also relevant because when students become aware of their rights and the importance of education, it can be a motivation for change. In order for this to become true, we have to keep bringing awareness of poverty and injustice towards different cultures, races, and backgrounds. The events that took place in South Africa, June 16, 1976, are very important today because it shows the same need for education.
What impact did the events of June 16th have on the education system? The 16th of June 1976 was a major turning point in South African history. The protests by thousands of Soweto school children on this day marked the end of the submissiveness on the part of the black students in South Africa and the beginning of a new militancy in the struggle against apartheid. The students' march resulted in hundreds of deaths and thousands of injuries, and education across the country was disrupted and schools vandalized. This uprising brought attention to the apartheid education system that favored white people and disadvantaged people of color, giving them an inferior education and a future as a laborer. The student uprising, as it became known, caused a chain reaction, and 3 years later, the Bantu education system improved slightly. Over time, the need to address this discrepancy has resulted in several attempts to improve education for previously disadvantaged learners and communities. Eventually, in 1996, mandatory segregation in education ended with the passing of the South African Schools Act. Unfortunately, decades of inferior education and barriers to entrance to historically white schools had left the majority of black South Africans far behind in educational achievement by the beginning of the 21st century. What the students started during the June 16th uprising has led to changes in an education system that seeks to address inequalities of the past.
My name is Beverly Orisote. I'm in 9C.
How can we commemorate the bravery of the students from June 16th? Do you think having one day commemorated to them is enough?
Well, we do have one day commemorated to them, which is good, but their struggles and their sacrifices should always live in our minds, because out of those struggles came for us the freedom to learn in a language that we understand.
Hello everyone, my name is Pupils TDI, I'm grade 9J, and I'm proud to be a member of the TDI Committee for 2021. I think we do, to an extent, uphold the spirits and get lots of inspiration from the June 16th march. For instance, movements like Fees Must Fall, or when the children in Cape Town were rioting for better education and free education for everyone, or like when the girls at Pretoria Girls were marching so that they don't have to have so many rules and regulations to wearing their natural hair out. But I think it's also just important to know that the struggles and the oppression during the June 16 march was very bad, not to invalidate our own, but just important to know that even our movements now will make a change for the future, and we're going to be inspiration to another generation someday, just like they were to us. So it's important to know that if you have a change in mind, if you want to make a revolution, go for it, because there's no one stopping you, and not everyone has the same ideas as you. One person can make a change. And it's just important for you to always go for what you believe in, and just remember that there's people fighting for us every day, and there were people that fought for us in the past, and you're fighting for a better future. Thank you.
Education free from indoctrination is so important. Indoctrination, the process of teaching a group or individual to blindly accept a set of values and beliefs uncritically. Being free from this wrong is a core pillar to learning properly and being able to think for yourself and question what's being said. Instead of just blindly following the ramblings of people who are there to read from a textbook and only impart the book's wisdom. Another reason is it encourages us to look deeper into the face value of a topic and reflect on what's being taught. Having an education free from indoctrination can be seen more practically as we learn from an unbiased perspective. We are then capable of seeing a given topic from multiple angles and different perspectives to get a better idea of what it means without the biases of the teacher or the given source material. If we weren't meant to question anything, we'd ought to be cogs in the machine with no defined purpose, just meant to exist and follow the masses. But as we learn new things, we gain new perspectives, and with that, new questions. It's a positive feedback loop. The more we learn, the more we ask, and so forth. But we cannot forget the struggles of those who have fought so hard and paved the way for our education to be free from the indoctrination of oppressors and those who seek to abuse their power. We commemorate those who gave their lives for us and honor them on June 16th.
Forcing language on students was a thing of the past in South Africa. We, as the younger generation, need to lead by example by standing up for what is right, and not letting anyone force us to learn anything in process of repeating an idea or belief to someone until we accept it without criticism or question.
How do you think us, the youth, can harness our power as the students from June 16th did? And what should we fight for? As the youth, we are the future, and our efforts for change will help pave the way for a bright and prosperous future for all. We can harness our power by making use of avenues such as social media. This is to ensure that our initiatives are shared with larger networks of people, and this will be vital in achieving the change that we'd like to see. I believe that we should focus our energy into fighting social injustices experienced by all citizens. But specifically, in a South African context, we should focus on fighting against gender-based violence and the unequal distribution of resources amongst.
What is it about a collective voice that is so powerful? What makes it so powerful? Well, when you have a collective voice, you have a shared opinion of the masses. And with this shared opinion, you cannot be ignored. You therefore break the silence, and you can therefore create change. You become a vehicle of change. We must be able to create these connections through these common opinions, and we must create this powerful voice that cannot be ignored.
With that
name is Relabahile Tabumasabo, and I'm one of the chairpersons of the TDI Committee for 2021. I think one of the reasons many of us are complicit when something wrong is happening is because we're scared of how other people will view us, and we're scared of how it will affect our relationship with others. Also, the consequences of actually speaking about the issue and how it could affect us personally. But I think people need to realize that sometimes it's better to speak out, because some people are going through a much worse situation than you are, and there are other people that may also agree that this is wrong. So you speaking out may encourage other people to also speak out, and it can bring a whole community of people together where we can actually try and solve this issue together, instead of you just sitting around knowing it's wrong and just silently watching it happen. Because if no one says anything, nothing's gonna happen. It's just gonna continue to get worse. Yeah, thank you.
So why is it so harmful to remain silent in or complicit in acts of injustice? Well, if we take it in a school scenario, you find that in the classroom we typically don't have these big and overt displays of injustice, but rather it's small things, it's little comments or jokes that are just meant to be taken as that, comments and jokes, but you'd find that more often than not, they're quite loaded. And these microaggressions, are quite harmful to the people who have to deal with them. So I feel like when you remain complicit, it perpetuates this idea that what this person does or this comment or this joke is okay to make, which typically isn't the case. And it doesn't really help us in the future when we don't know what's right and what's wrong. So by remaining complicit in these scenarios, we're really not helping anyone. We're not helping the perpetrator or the victim, because the victim may feel as though, oh, maybe I'm hurt by this, but am I supposed to be? If no one's reacting the same reaction that I have, then maybe my feelings aren't right. And then again, the perpetrator believes that they've done nothing wrong. So I believe that staying complicit in acts of injustice is extremely harmful and something that we should avoid.